Welcome back to the channel. It's another blustery, possibly rainy day here in eastern North Carolina. And today we're going to do the garden tour, end of spring garden tour. I'll show you everything that's happened in and around the garden. If you haven't caught the first quasi garden tour, I'll put a link to it below if I remember, or you can just go back and look for the Big Dreams garden tour, I believe it was called. And there I run around the garden, show you what is and isn't there, and then tell you what I hope to do with the property. I consider everything from the edge of the house out to the edge of the property the garden. That being said, let's talk about the lawn. So behind me here is the front lawn of the property, and there's not really much going on except off to one side. I don't know if you could see that in the shot. I will do a close-up shot of it in a second. There is the row of box hedges. That actually will come all the way down along the driveway and we'll meet up with the arbor, which you'll see in a minute. I'm not going to be building the rest of that out this year due to the fact that, well, it gets stupid hot and it's already a pain in the neck of watering those things. Also, if you see me swatting my face around a lot, that's because of the damn deer flies. They are vicious little flies that just try to suck all the blood out of you. Anywho, all the way back there, we have two pear trees. Again, I'll do a close-up shot of that in a second. They are summer crisp pear trees. My wife wanted them for, well, just because they have pretty white flowers, I believe, or pink flowers, not sure which, white or pink, in the springtime. So she thought that would look very nice at the front end of the property. So they're there. Along the edge over here, and again, we'll show that in just a second, I have a camellia all the way up front, I believe it's camellia, and several azaleas. So I will show that. And then, yeah, so let me start showing you some of the things that we have going on around here. Here's a close-up of that row of box that eventually they're going to grow into a nice little hedge, be a low-lying hedge, at least that's the theory. And they will continue all the way down the driveway to the arbor. Here's one of the pear trees. I got these as maybe 4-footers, so they've grown up quite a bit. And I planted them, I believe it was January. That's the other one. Here we have October Magic Camellia. This actually got eaten down almost to the ground by some deer. And now it is grown back. And maybe we'll get some flowers out of it later on this year. Here is Autumn Sangria Azalea. This is also along the front edge. And here is Autumn Royalty Azalea. I believe all of these azaleas bloom in the fall. And last but not least is Autumn Carnation Azalea. So there's the bushes along the property line. And there'll be more plantings in the future. By the driveway here near the front of the house, I have a wisteria. This is not a Chinese wisteria. This is Amethyst Falls wisteria. And eventually, hopefully, it'll climb up and over the arbor here. So that would be a nice shot. And eventually that will lead you out into the rest of the garden out that way. Next to it, I have a crepe myrtle. And then I did a video earlier this year. It's really difficult to hold the camera steady while the deer flies are trying to eat you. I did a video earlier this year where I built this drain rain gutter thing. It's been working out very well. Next to it, we have some White Breeze Shasta Daisy. I totally forgot the name of this thing. I have to get some labels made up. But not only does it have these leaves, but it's going to throw up a wonderful flower spike. Those were purchases by my wife. Over here, just coming up now, we have Volcano Hardy Winter Gladiolus. And then behind them, we have Casablanca Lilies. So I have stakes, but only one of them right now looks like it's big enough to start staking. So I'll have to get to that soon. Over here I have Ever Twilight Agapanthus. Here, towards the front corner of the porch, This is Stella d'Or Reblooming Daylily. I have 2 of them with an unknown low-lying rose shrub. Don't know what it is. Got to figure it out one day. Let's go look at the other side of the porch. Oh, forgot to mention these lovely flowers that my wife planted up and put on the side of the porch. If you catch any wind noise, I do apologize. It's a windy day here. Down there is a coreopsis I have to plant. And next to it in this pot here, all the way up, it's an apple tree. This is a Gala apple tree, G-A-L-A, I believe. And then we have another one of those rose shrubs that I'm not sure what it is, but it is quite lovely. And over here we have Russian Rhapsody. That's these guys there. Another one of those weird spiky things. There's a lot of grass that are growing in the beds and around the beds, and there are areas of the beds I have not yet developed. Pawpaw tree. Now if you follow along the channel, here's another one and then another one. These pawpaw trees were purchased for my wife for Valentine's Day. Slightly odd Valentine's Day gift, but she makes her happy. Here is my much beloved and beaten on First David Austin Rose, Mr. Lincoln. Brought him from New York, transplanted him. He survived the trip. I got one flower out of him earlier this year. Does look like something is nibbling on the rose bush. I have sprayed it with some organic bug spray stuff. Hopefully he'll bound back, especially once I get him out of the pot and into something nicer. Here's another one of those dark flowers things, and there's the spike. Now eventually the spike will actually get taller, and then the flowers will come out. The flowers haven't come out yet, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, give a follow on Instagram. When this thing starts flowering, I'm going to try to take a picture of it, so that should look pretty cool. Over here we have some lilies. I believe these guys I want to say tiger lilies. I purchased them at Lowe's. I forgot to label it up. Back here we have white tiger lilies. I think these guys are going to need some string. And over here, Casablanca lilies. Over here, which looks like it's getting ready to pop, these are golden ginkgo daylilies. So that should be pretty cool when they start popping. Probably next week. More unused space, just filled with grass and weeds. Eventually I'll cut all that out and plant up good stuff. My much beleaguered sweet peas, they need a little tying up, so I just had to take care of that. Over here we have 3 red skin dahlias. They're doing pretty good. Not as great as the ones in the back. You'll see that in a few minutes. Appears something was nibbling at one of their leaves. If that'll focus. Not sure what that is, but doing pretty well. And then we have some Dusty Miller, I believe this is called. No, wait, this is wormwood. This is wormwood. And that's Dusty Miller, I think. If I'm wrong, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm often wrong about these things. I forgot to mention the t-shirt I'm wearing here, which says gardening is not a race, it's a journey. And this is from Jim Putnam over at HortTube. I'll leave a link to his channel below. I believe it's a very true statement. Gardening, especially if you're doing it for a prolonged period of time or in a larger environment or even a small environment, things are constantly changing. It's never paint a wall, done. It's the plant is growing, next year it's not growing, I don't like the color, I want to change it, I want to move the location, I want to add, I want to subtract. Again, it's a journey. It's rarely is it ever just black and white as it do one thing and call it quits. So either hoot. This is the again Jim Putnam t-shirt. Again, I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel below. He also lives down here in North Carolina, I believe over in Raleigh. He has a lot of good information and advice on his channel. I often watch it, and I'm learning new things all the time because, well, I'm a learning gardener, growing a green finger. Anywho, behind me is the crater, as I'm going to start calling it from now on, I believe. This was a tree that was dead. It got cut down, but instead of grinding out all of the stump, because I believe the utility lines were passing under or near it, I turned around and just decided to try to make some sort of garden out of it. I spoke about this in my recent video, planting the crater. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. And I tell you specifically about all the different plants. And I actually now have, it's been a few days since I did that video, I now have more plants that I need to put into here, but I'm chasing the rain. Or the rain is chasing me, I'm chasing the rain, working in between the rain. Anywho, so this space will evolve over time. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. So you'll be able to follow along as things evolve and the journey continues. Let's move on to the next area. Okay, so now we're on the side of the house. If you hear the air conditioner, I do apologize. The temperature seems to have cooled off, which is kind of nice. Earlier today, it was about 75 with 80% humidity, and it felt incredibly, almost unbearable. In front of me over here, not much has changed. I still have an azalea, an English boxwood, and red twig dogwood. Further back, I have a eponymous, I believe. I can't remember the name of it. I have to put a tag there. A spirea, and then a variegated, I forgot the name. I'll put it below. Let's go take a closer look at that now. Here is the autumn carnation azalea, English boxwood, red twig dogwood. Here is the eponymous, I can't remember what variety. Appears to be crawling with some sort of bugs. They're probably going for the nectar on the flowers. That's pretty cool. Here's the spirea. And then the variegated, ooh, this is an oleander, I believe. Oleander. I'll put the name below. Behind the garage, I still have the one very sad and very lonely hydrangea. This is Blushing Bride. And the flowers look like they're really coming out nice. Get the camera to focus on that. Focus. There we go. Lovely. Off to the backside over here, I have 3 shrubs. First one is, this one is Copper Top Viburnum. Back here we have August Beauty Gardenia. And over here is Autumn Beauty Camellia. Okay, so this is now the side of the garage, or back side of the garage, something along those lines. I don't know if you can see this in shot. I'm trying to look at the display to see if I can see it. I have a water barrel, which I have yet to hook up to the drain, to the downspouts. Damn deer flies. Pile of pallets. This pile of pallets will eventually be turned into something, whether it's potting trays, fencing, gates, etc. Actually, I'd like to build a couple of tables to put my succulents on, that kind of thing. Back here, I have, ooh, that was a good one. I have, sorry, again, these deer flies, they're trying to kill me. Normally I'd wear a netting, but I wanted to make sure that you could see my gorgeous, adorable face here as I slap myself silly. Back here's the potting table. I have daylilies on it right now, but I've often done projects on it. You guys have seen it if you follow along with the channel. I might have to go get that hat with the screen on it. There's another one. And back here I have a compost pile. Let's take a closer look at those. This is the ever-growing pile of pallets. Again, I have to find use for that. Here's some pallet wood that's already been taken apart, and I will be making many things with this. This collection of daylilies right here, this came from a family member that lives nearby, and she turned around and gave me 3 plants, and I divided it into many plants. So thank you for that. Over here we have privet, golden ticket, that I plan on using as a hedge line between the vegetable garden and the rose garden. Okay, and these daylilies, brand new, I just got them today. or yesterday actually, but they're night beacon reblooming daylilies. I believe it's a bluish flower. That should be pretty interesting. Over here is probably my pride and joy at the moment. This is 3 red skin dahlias in a pot, and they just keep blooming and blooming and blooming and blooming. Of course, you have to deadhead them so they continue to rebloom, but I don't know if you could see that. The bees love the dahlias. There's just one there. And then of course the compost pile. Here is just some of the tools and supplies, and over there is more supplies, dirt, mulch. Takes a lot to build a garden. This is to prove that I have a wife. Say hello, dear. There you go. Okay, the deer flies are getting a bit much, but there's nothing to be done about that. Let's go up to the deck and see what's growing there. So here are my much abused succulents. They need a lot of love. Lemongrass, some more dahlias growing in a pot. These guys got hit hard by a frost in April, I believe. It was early April. And they're doing okay. They're not great, but I'm gonna give them a chance, let them grow, let them fill out. Here I have my orange tree. And then here and here are my 2 lemon trees, Meyer lemon trees. Down here I have some cilantro. Back there in that pot there is actually a small dahlia trying to grow. I don't know if it'll succeed. And next to it I have 2 strawberry plants, or multiple strawberry plants, in each of those grow bags. They're already throwing out runners. So I think what I'll do is I'll take another grow bag, fill it with soil, and let the runners grow into that. Here I have a little strawberry tower. There used to be a lot more strawberry plants in here, but for whatever reason they didn't survive. So down here have a celery, and that was started from a little stump, as it were. We just planted it into the pot, and it's been growing ever since. Swing over here, I have some emerald green box cuttings that I brought with me from New York. They're doing quite well in the heat and the sun down here. Red Norland potatoes. I think that they got hit with some sort of fungus and they died back very rapidly. Not a good thing. I'll probably do an autopsy on that next week. Here we have my 4 David Austin roses. If you haven't seen that episode, please feel free to go back and watch it. I believe, I can't remember the number. I'll put it on the screen if I remember. And over here I believe this is an Annabelle with hydrangea, and that's going to need to go into the ground soon, I think, because I think it's pretty much depleted all the nutrition in that pot. It was a little bare root thing. It was a itty bitty thing when I first got it. These 4 plants down here are called peas in a pot. They are peas that you grow in a pot. They sort of form a bush, apparently, according to the instructions. Next to it I have a dill, and then 3 rosemary plants next to that. Down here is a russet potato. Completely unplanned in the planting. One day my wife went and she bought some organic potatoes, and one of the potatoes started throwing up a lot of eyes, and she said, why don't we try planting this? So that's what we did. So we're going to see how that turns out. In this pot over here we have some California garlic. Bought it from Lowe's. Didn't have much hopes for it, but it seems to be doing quite well. So we'll have to keep tabs on that. Here, this is 2 spearmint plants. Growing quite well, large pot. Just doing what mint does. Over here is a mixed plant pot thing that my wife put together. Some more lemongrass, gardenia bush. We got as a gift from a family member. It looks a little worse for wear, but I think in the long term it's going to be fine. Down here, all sorts of babies that eventually will get either planted out or handed on to somebody in the cold frame here. You can see I have the door to the cold frame open. It's not really meant to keep heat in at this point, just I'm acting as a giant windbreak. Another little potted up display of lovely flowers here that my wife did. We have 2 heliobores, And one of them still has flowers on it. I cannot believe that. With the heat and the sun down here, I thought this guy would have dropped flowers a while back, but he's still holding on to his flowers. So yes, I'm wearing the netting. I don't know if I mentioned that deer fly is crazy. And so now let's talk about this garden over here. Okay, back along over here. This is the east-ish side of the house. The house doesn't face directly north, south, east, west. It's at a slight tilt, but this is what I call my shade garden, even though it doesn't really get a lot of shade. It gets a lot of morning sun, and by noonish, most of this area is in shade. So most of the plants that need shade do quite well here. I have a couple of ferns, poppy. I'll do a close-up of this, but lungworts, heucheras, foxgloves, hostas. You know, I'll do a sweep of that. I have a rain barrel I've yet to hook up to the gutter system. I have all the parts, I just haven't had time to do it, or haven't made time to do it. And let's do a close-up of this garden now. Okay, so down here we have a Japanese fern, and this is, I believe, autumn brilliance fern. Here's that poppy I was telling you about. Not in bloom at the moment, probably next week. Maybe get some more blooms out of it. These right here are some milkweeds and a yarrow that will go out into that crater garden. Back here under the shade cloth, I have some lungwort, and I have a fern that's squeezed in back there, and then some a big old foxglove back there behind this pot. That's Pam's Choice, I do believe. This is Empress Wu Hosta. Various foxgloves, I believe it's foxglove mix. Two different types of heuchera. There's actually a third one under there trying to hide. A couple of salvias. Another agapanthus. I love agapanthus. Just something about the quirkiness of it. Some more foxglove. These are, I got a little daisy there that needs to get planted out. And these were bare root winter gem, I believe, box that needs to get potted on. Or I'm sorry, green velvet. They're all green velvet. And it's another couple in there. I think only one survived. Over here we have a couple of agapanthus itty bitties right there and right there. And then we have a Patriot hosta. And then this is a meadow rue right here. And then we have lemon coral sedum. Volcano winter gladiolus. Volcano hardy winter gladiolus. Some more lungwort. The lungwort does not do well with the bright sun, hence the reason the shade cloth is draped over it. And then we have, I can't remember the name of it. If I remember, I'll post it below. And then this is a Sum and Substance hosta. Hasn't even gotten close to where it needs to be. It's height-wise. Then there's an astilbe, this lovely astilbe right here, with some foxglove behind it. Okay, so now on the other side of the driveway, away from the house, right behind me, is the vegetable garden. This is the first space that I started to develop, and again, if you follow along with the channel, or if you haven't followed along with the channel, feel free to go back, watch those videos as I build out the vegetable garden. It's 99% done. I still have some gates to install. I built one recently. I just have to hang it. So that'll go in the first entrance. And then there's an entrance basically on every side. In the back of the vegetable garden, which I'll get to in a minute, there'll be another gate, and that'll lead out to a work area, as it were, behind some hedges. And that's where I'll keep all of the excess wheelbarrows and dirt and mulch and wood chips, and that's a future thing. So let's take a closer look now at the vegetable garden, see what's growing there. So down at that end, right there, and if we zip along right at there, on all four corners, I have a Japanese sky pencil holly. They should get about to 8 feet tall, so they'll be defining. Along the fence line, long term, I'd like to have hedging. In fact, if we walk down here, I've already started planting some bushes. These are baby gem boxwoods, and I think they've already grown in the 2 weeks that I planted them a couple of inches, which is really exciting. They should get about 4 foot tall, which would be about the height of the fence. Back at the entrance, I have this mound, and this is where I'm going to plant a couple of clematis vines so I can have them grow up the fence, and then along the top of the fence, at least that's the theory or the plan. I'm just waiting for those plants to get here, which they will do one day. Let's walk through. And let's look over to the left first. When you first walk in, I have a boxwood which was donated to me by some family, and I have no idea what it is. I'll figure it out one day, but in the meantime, it's doing well right here. Got a little beat up in planting. Back here we have 3 firepower Nadias. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'll put the name below. I'm not keen on these plants. They were freebies. I figured I'd plop them right in here in the vegetable garden just as temporary space. One of the things I do not like about them, well, A, is the messy look that they have. This one I trimmed back a lot, and he's growing back slowly, but I don't know anything about them. And 2, they're highly poisonous. You eat the leaves, they're poisonous. You eat the twigs, they're poisonous. If you let the leaves decompose, they turn into like a form of cyanide. It's horrible. In the back of the vegetable garden right now is a lot of wood chips, and this came from 2 trees that I had cut down. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch that video. These wood chips will be used throughout the garden for various purposes, and that's the other back corner. So eventually a fence will go all the way back across, and there'll be hedging, lots of large hedges. So I'm thinking 10, 15 footers maybe. So behind that, that's where I'll put all of the things like dirt and compost and mulch. So these bags here will be used soon in a raised bed that again, another raised bed I purchased because I want a total of 8, and I only have 7 raised beds. So over here you can see I started using some of the wood chips, put down a layer of cardboard, and then pile the wood chips on top of it. And eventually the cardboard will rot down and the wood chips will rot, and it'll all just work on improving the soil. Now, again, if you follow along with the channel, you know that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 beds of potatoes. I kind of lost track of how many potatoes I was buying. So yeah, this is what I got. I also have some basil that I put into this bed and one of the other beds. Yukon Golds, Elbas. This is red Pontiac potatoes. Then we have German butterballs. These German butterballs got attacked by a hornworm, but the hornworm was dispatched with. So, and the leaves are growing back, which is pretty exciting. And then we have the French fingerling potatoes. So it's growing well, and hopefully they'll all turn around and be ready for harvest in the next few months. I have 3 mortgage lifter tomato plants. One of them seems to be, the leaves seem to be yellowing up a lot, this first one here. I'll have to look into that and make sure there's nothing going on critter-wise. I thought it was just maybe water deficient, maybe there's something else going on. In the meantime, we have a giant mess of Genovese basil. Down here I have Walla Walla onions. They're all growing slowly, doing their thing. And then here, these 3 tomato plants are early girl tomatoes. I've grown them in the past and I've had a lot of success with them. So they're growing there. Over here, I have loofah. I've never grown loofah before. The things that you have, the sponges, yeah, never grown them before. So that's pretty exciting. They're growing like wildfire. In fact, this first one is grown above the trellis and is looking for something else to cling to. Ignore the crap in the background. So I may have to put another post or pole up there to continue to climb on. Down here I have some cherry bell radishes, which, hey, they're growing. It's kind of late in the season for them, but they're doing their thing. Back here I have potatoes which have, not potatoes, peas. These peas have not done very well at all, and I'm not sure why. Is it something with the soil? Is it lack of water, although it's been raining a lot the last couple of days. Don't know. I planted a lot of Kentucky pole bean right here, and sadly only one came up, and it looks very sad. So I'll have to replant that, I believe. Right here, down in front, I have oregano, Greek oregano. That does very well, or is doing very well. Ooh, one of them's going to flower. I don't know anything about oregano. I should use it in cooking. I don't use it in cooking because I really don't cook. My wife does most of the cooking, or all the cooking. But that's another story for another time. Wanted to see if I could grow it. Over here, I have sweet deck, or on deck sweet corn. I didn't even think these guys were going to grow, and they seem to be hanging in there growing. This is a short version. I believe it gets about 4 to 5 feet tall. Corn, you can grow it in a pot, and since I had the raised bed, I figured, well, let's try it in the raised bed and see what happens. So they're clinging along. Back here in this cage, to try to keep the deers away from it, I have 4 tomato plants, 2 Rutgers, and 2 Bing cherries. I don't know which one is which. They're kind of hanging in there. I also have some basil planted in there, and the basil's doing all right. I think I'm gonna have to give this some more attention, probably on Saturday after the rains. And then in front, I have bush beans, and they're doing okay, except something's nibbling on them. I don't know what's nibbling on them. I wish it would stop, but they're growing and they're doing okay. Over here, I have green finger cucumbers. These guys were all dying back. In fact, you could see the dieback on this one. So I can zoom that. I don't know if that's focusing. Hopefully it is. But you can also see there's new green growth in there coming up. And if we look across the way to its cousin, there's another one that was the same thing, and it's grown quite a bit. Maybe it just took a little while to hit its stride or something. I don't know, but they're growing. So that's a good thing. More dill. And then in between the 2 dills, I have 2 more. I believe these are sweet basil plants. So they're growing. Over here is a bed. Well, again, ignore the netting. This was some sort of deer netting. It was try to keep the deer out because I saw some deers and I started panicking. But I think I'll have to take that down soon. But this is a future raised bed. And what I did is I took some of the wood chips and I put them down, and I put some grass clippings on top of that. And I think I'm going to continue that lasagna method throughout the year. And then hopefully next year it might be good. It might be ready to use. I don't know. Yeah, it's an experiment I'm going to try. Oh, in the front of the vegetable garden here, we have another lovely raised arbor. And then I will get to the stuff that's on the other side of the gate in a minute. Over here in this bed, I have some, what is this? Jack B. Little pumpkins. They don't seem to be doing that well, and again, I'm not sure as to why. They've been basically the same size for weeks now, not really growing, and I'm not really sure about why. And these are Holden, I believe they're Holden pumpkins. Again, not really doing well. They seem to be deficient in something. It could be the soil they're planted in, it could be something else, but they've basically been the same size for weeks now, and I have to figure out why and maybe get them something more tender TLC. Over here in this bed here, now this bed was made up of compost from soil 3, and I have this is Bantam sweet corn, and that's doing quite well, growing up. And I've mulched the beds with some grass to help with water retention, and I'll be adding more grass soon. This is a watermelon, sugar baby watermelon, and over on this mound is the same thing. They've been planted up, and we'll see what happens with them. And I still have space for another on-ground bed, no-dig bed, which I'll probably put up in the next few months. Okay, now this is the other side of this is the other entrance to the vegetable garden. This is the east entrance. Beyond this, this is where a tree was with all of the mess that was around it. I did a video on the crews taking that down. This thing here, this is supposed to keep deer away. So it's some sort of soapy type substance, smells to them. And I'm being assaulted by deer flies as we say this. So this pile right here will ever shrink because this is in the rose garden. But for the time being, I'm going to sort of use it as, I'll rake it back. I'm going to rake all this back and basically make a nice little tight pile. I'll probably throw some stuff on top of it, and it'll be sort of a open compost pile. That compost will eventually be used in the garden. If you didn't follow my rose building out a rose garden part 1, this area right here is where the first 5 rose bushes are going to go, along with those privet hedges right along the side here. Now I started to work on improving the soil because it's heavy clay, and I dumped down some of this rotted grass clipping compost here, and all of this will turn around and eventually be integrated into the ground, but I have still much work to do all the way to the front. And there's another one of those Japanese sky pencils. Okay, so you are now standing at the front future edge of the rose garden, and I'm standing in the rose garden. Initially the beds are going to be 12 feet deep, so I think I'm standing in the middle of what will be a future bed. But it'll go from back there, it'll go up front, it'll cut across, it'll go that way 60 feet. It'll be a beautiful thing. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. So this way you can follow along with that process. That'll be happening over the next few months. Actually, it'll be many months, maybe a year or so. I just did part 1, part 2, maybe coming up in the next few weeks. And then there'll be a 3 and a 4 and a 5. And I think eventually what I'm probably going to wind up doing is creating a separate playlist on YouTube here on YouTube to put all those videos. So if you wanted to follow along with me building out the rose garden part 1 through whatever, you can. I almost forgot to mention the area right here in front of the vegetable garden, which you're seeing is just a small portion. And this is where I planted all my dahlias. Now currently I have approximately 20 dahlias, and there are more on the way. They'll fill out a space that's there's still a little bit of space left. They'll fill that out, and if I have to, I'll find more space because I love dahlias. And so let me give you a quick preview of all the dahlias I have. So most of the dahlias have grown, and I'm not going to bore you with the name of all these dahlias. If you want to see that video, I did a couple of videos planting dahlias, parts 1, 2, and 3, I believe. And these, again, if you follow me on Instagram, I often post up pictures of some of these dahlias, especially this guy right here, Franz Kafka. So, lovely dahlia. And let's just give you a view down the length of the front of the vegetable garden. And like I said, I have more dahlias on the way, so that'll be exciting. All right, so that about wraps it up for today. Sorry I'm wearing this stupid thing. The deer flies are just really annoying, and I need to protect my ears and eyes because that's where they like to go. They like to go into my ear canal and my eyeballs for some bizarre reason. Don't know why. So some things have changed, some things have stayed the same. The garden continues to grow. Like the t-shirt says, it's a journey. So it's one that I'm bringing you along for. If you'd hit the subscribe button and that bell icon to be notified when I put up a new video. Seriously, if you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon, especially that bell icon, YouTube will notify you of when I post up a new video. So that's about it for today. Again, if you don't follow me on Instagram, give a follow on Instagram. If you'd like to help support the channel, I have some green finger hand logo merch. The link is below. If you didn't know, I wrote a book. That link is below. And I think that about wraps it up for today. I'm going to catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.